Perfect. All right. All right. Still a lot of people joining. That's fine. We'll keep tabs on that. But we got a long agenda here. There's a lot of big stuff on here. There's a lot of really big stuff, actually. There's for Metro, for the C line or the green line. There is the Harbor AES site information. You got the fireworks, got the budget, got some upcoming events here in Redondo. A lot going on this month in Redondo, a lot going on in the city right now for city business. If you guys have noticed, our closed sessions have been going way past 6 o'clock until actually 6:30 because we've been packed and we've had a long budget season. We've had an extra budget meeting at the end of May. So we normally have 4 budget meetings. This year we're having 5 budget meetings. And it's biggest budget we've ever had, $104 million, record revenues, and a lot of new expenses, new positions, new hires. We'll get into that. Very exciting, actually. First time in years we've really been able to do that, which is really, really good. Shows a healthy city. We're moving along. We have a lot of items that have been done on our strategic plan. We'll go over some of the items that we are adding and some of the things that were done. We got, of course, got the AES Powerplant site. You'll hear it here first how much Leo has officially bought the Powerplant for. Have the paperwork, and we have all the documents. Actually, it's all public record now. We'll go over the bankruptcy and the terms and the deals and some of the options in here that we didn't know about. And of course, the fireworks. We'll deal with the fireworks, the fireworks situation here in Redondo. What's happening with that? The LA Water Board has instituted a new permit system for LA County, and we'll go over the quick history for that, why then there's a new permit in town and what led to that. Just the same water board that renewed the extension for the AES power plant site created a new permit for the fireworks issue. And let's see here, a quick general overall viewpoint as well. It's just abbreviated. What we're going over as well is, let's see, the Metro Green Line. Yes. So real quick, I'll just, I had a meeting in downtown LA last week with Metro, and I went as Mayor Pro Tem to Metro has once a year or so a meeting, invites all the cities, and I, with Robert pulling Miles from Lawndale, made a statement / question regarding the C line and the right of way versus Hawthorne option. And the chief deputy of Metro came over to me, which is the second in command of Metro, came after me right after the meeting. And we sat down for 45 minutes and had a really good conversation and talk about the Green Line, or now formerly known as Green Line, now the C line extension, and what that means, where they're going with it, and what I feel what they're doing. And I'll tell you right now, just as a general overview, they're listening, they're hearing your voices, and it's important that we keep the drumbeat up and we get our talking points and understanding what they want aligned with what we want. So we'll be going over that. So without any further ado, as everyone's been lined up, we got a bunch of people who've joined. We will start off with the fireworks conversation. And the fireworks conversation, to give you a quick overview of a long story, there is a gentleman who goes around and sues many different agencies and groups over environmental concerns. His latest lawsuit was down Los Alamitos Bay, down in Long Beach, for a private business that does a fireworks show in Los Alamitos Bay on the water. And his point of contention was that fireworks were causing undue harm to the environment and was polluting the environment. It's a federal under the Clean Water Act. The gentleman lost his lawsuit, The judge threw the lawsuit out, or actually just flat out just denied the lawsuit. I'm not sure exactly what, but he said two things. One is the LA Water Board should probably Los Angeles Water Board, Los Angeles Region Water Board, which is part of LA County and Ventura County. So you should probably have a permit in place, because San Diego has a permit and San Francisco has a permit. And the other thing he said was that you get your attorney's fees. The irony in that, federal lawsuit, loses the federal lawsuit, gets thrown out, and the judge says you get your attorney's fees. That's the only reason why this guy does this, is to get attorney fees. It's the only reason why he does it. So he failed at his lawsuit, but the action ramifications, what happened, I believe, in March, ramifications of that is that the LA Water Board, the Regional Water Board, came up with a new permit in April and had it for public comment. The public commented. There was a whole list of individuals that were notified. Only one fireworks company was notified, Pyro Spectaculars, and the rest was environmental groups, and I believe the environmental groups and the Office of State Fire Marshal's office, which oversees the fireworks program. Comments came back in May. Actually, Jeff Ginsburg called me the day before and said, "Hey, have you heard anything about this?" And I said, "Nope, haven't heard anything about this. Don't know what you're talking about." So did some quick research, called around, and found out that the LA Regional Water Board, rather than carbon copying the permit for San Diego and San Francisco, they decided to create their own permit, which included anything from doing a underwater survey under the water before and after the fireworks show, to doing water sampling, to having cameras on the barges, to putting up walls on the barges if it's a barge show. All these things that I'm saying were all significantly and vehemently opposed to by a lot of people on safety, including myself. I spoke at the water board and said, gave my 3 minutes of time to say this flies in the face of the safety issues, the crew working on the barge. And they even included having a little boat going around with a pool scooper and saying, we want you to pick up, it might be some floating trash. Long story short, in full transparency, I'm a licensed pyrotechnic operator for state of California for over 20 years now. I've been doing barge shows for almost 20 years. I've been shooting professional fireworks for over 20 years. I know this scope really well. I know this whole area. My expertise is deep in this. And I gave my 3 minutes of time. I only had like 30 minutes to put together a little speech. It was all. They gave my 3 minutes the most amount of credence and credit. The things that I said, they actually kind of listened to. But at the end of the day, the staff really wanted to get their permit through and their permit in. And one of the issues with their permit is that they wanted to move forward with is there's very little clarity as to what they are actually looking for. They also added, they being the board themselves, added an extra couple of items, for instance, sulfur dioxide monitoring, which was not in the permit. This is the water board asking for an air testing. Like I said, the water board wants things like water quality testing before, during, and after the show. There was some significant pushback from the water board members. The chair asked some great questions. The vice chair asked some great questions. Some others asked some great questions and really pushed the issue and said, hey, wait a second. What about these safety issues? What about this? What about that? Well, long story short, the staff really wanted to get this permit in. So they actually voted to approve the permit with an addition of the sulfur monitoring, air monitoring. There was one member that said no, so it did not pass unanimously. Interesting enough, as Christensen, she actually worked for City of Redondo about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago for the city manager. She created actually the South Bay Bicycle Master Plan. So after creating the South Bay Bicycle Master Plan, she went on to work for the River Keepers in LA for LA River. So immediately, that was May 25th. And so here we are, just over a month and a week or two from 4th of July. Well, there's no official permit at that time. So immediately Power Spectaculars, amongst other people, reached out to the water board and asked for clarity. They didn't have any real answers, any real clarity, because they hadn't even had the paperwork done yet for the permit. So Power Spectacular sent a letter out to all of the shows that they have in LA County, all 6 or 7 shows they have in LA County, 2 of which are here in Redondo Beach, and said, due to the fact that this new permit it's in place with no real clarity. Today is Friday or Thursday. We're going to notify you today, Thursday or Friday of the following week. I believe it was like the first week in June, I want to say. December or May 31st or something, June 1st, June 2nd, right in there. Well, the deposits for all of these barges were due on June 5th or 6th, I believe. So non-refundable. So Pyro Spectaculars, who's in charge of all of those deposits, just said, we're going to cancel everything. We don't know if we can get this permit in time or what the ramifications are. I talked with our fire chief, Chief Butler. He actually knew the vice chair, David Narain, Narain, and made a few phone calls. I made a lot of phone calls to try to get some clarity on the situation. Our fire chief, interim Chief Butler, he was on the phone with the executive director and some staff. And they said, we will work with you. We will see what we can do. About a week or so later, this would be from the 7th, 8th, so 8th, 9th, the water board said, June 8th, 9th said, okay, we're going to work with you. We will issue a permit. We just don't know quite yet what the requirements are of the permit, but we will issue a permit. We're going to work with you. I'll just say there was a lot of conversations between the fire chief and the executive director for the water board. There was a lot of messaging going back, what means what, and in this time, and just at that time, the water board actually came out with the actual permit. And I will say this, I got a copy of the permit application, I should say, permit application. The permit application looks nothing like what was voted on by the commission members. So I find it very curious that they did this. Well, the damage at this point in time had been done by the 8th or 9th. So last week it was supposed to be on the agenda for the 13th. And again, in full transparency, I've been shooting fireworks for professional fireworks for over 20 years. I have a 4th of July fireworks show as well, 4 Power Spectaculars down in Orange County. I had a show on the July 3rd, and unfortunately, you make these last minute decisions like this, they're detrimental to planning. There's only so many resources for both the barge company, for the fireworks company, the operators, personnel, deposits, there's contractual obligations. So luckily the city of Redondo is not contractually obligated to pay for the barge. And I worked a lot with Jeff Ginsburg for the fireworks show down in Riviera Village, Avenue I, with Oingo Boingo. Come on down. There's a nice little band down there. There's lots of events, festivities. We tried to get his show onto the beach directly or onto the Esplanade. Worked something out. The problem is the beach is considered part of the watershed. And if you have it on the beach, it fall to the fallout zone, the safety zone, that would be included in the water or in the LA Water Board permit. So since there was the permit would be impacted, would be required, he had the same problem. City Redondo, we were going to get a permit that would cover for both shows, for the show in the harbor and down the Riviera Village. But again, by the time the 8th and 9th and now the 13th rolls around, these decisions have been kind of made. And last week, Tuesday, We had 2 council members out of town. I was going to recuse myself from the conversation just because, even though I am not, I don't have to, it just would look better because I do work for the company as a contractor, not as an employee. I have no financial interest in the company or the contract. But I do have a show with them on the 4th. So I was just gonna say, you know what, I'm out. Let you guys make a decision. The fire chief knows what's going on. He's been informed. He knows what's going on. He's well adept at this. The fireworks company price spectaculars, they would be available, but unfortunately, we're only 2 people there in session, in open session, which means we needed a 3rd, and so we didn't have quorum last week to be able to talk about this item in person. So we did not, nobody lost. See some questions here regarding the deposit. We did not lose a deposit because no one, the company pulled the contract before the deposits were due. So that way no one, non-refundable deposits wouldn't have been paid by the city or by the contractor or by anyone involved. So like I said, we didn't have the discussion last week. We have a discussion this week on the agenda. There are some other opportunities or options to possibly do a show on Saturday or Sunday, July 2nd or 1st or 2nd, Dominguez Park. I was in a meeting with staff and I said, hey, listen, there's other options on land here to be able to do a show like this. And so we talked about that. Staff will present those options. City staff did a great job of looking all around the city, from the Performing Arts Center to the high school to Dominguez Park. So the council will decide what they're going to do. I'm not sure if, with this late in the game, if the company Power Spectaculars, they will have the resource to be able to do a show on Saturday or Sunday, July 1st or 2nd. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love for you to send your comments into to the council so that they know what you would like. We talked about this in depth during my community meeting, in-person community meeting, and basically the issue came down to people just want 4th of July fireworks show on 4th of July, not like we did a couple of years ago on an off day. Let me get to some of the questions in the chat. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. You can put up your hand as well and speak. Or you can put, if you're on Facebook, I will be watching the Facebook Live video. Let me actually refresh that. So there's actually, there you go. So that people can comment there and I can respond to those comments. So first comments in order that I've gotten here is next year they lost their deposit. No, nobody lost any deposits for anything. No deposits been paid. It was still just outside of the scope, the 30-day, 35-day or 30-day time period, or less 25 days. So no one was losing their deposit. That's a good thing, that we are not, the city is not paying for something that we don't need, or any other vendor. So I would say, if I was going to bet, there's a question here. Fireworks are probably not going to happen this year. I would say if I was going to bet on fireworks happening this year in Redondo Beach, it's not going to happen on July 4th. There's just not the time frame. There's not the personnel, the equipment on land. This has happened all way too fast. If the LA Water Board would have instituted the same exact permit they institute for San Diego or San Francisco, and mind you, San Francisco is very tough with their environmental regulations, and there's a perfectly legitimate permit they could have just carbon copied there, we would have been able to do this and move forward with it. But since they decided to go down their own permit with no real clarity and no information, a lot of people are very worried, and rightfully so, that this person who's suing everyone and started this whole problem will go around and sue based on this new permit and violations of this permit. So there's a lot of skittish people. There are 2 fireworks vendors, I believe, Zambelli and Garden State Fireworks. Both are from the East Coast, who are, I believe, pursuing this permit. Garden State Fireworks, on July 4th, 2012, they are most famously known for doing the Big Sky fireworks show down in San Diego. It is the infamous fireworks show where they had 3 barges all go off at one time, and all 3 barges within 30 seconds, a 30-minute fireworks show went off in 30 seconds. All product was shot in 30 seconds. So that was because they had a malfunctioning equipment. I'll just leave it there. And they're doing a show, I believe, down in Long Beach. So I don't think these guys, Zambelli as well, they're doing the Marina Del Rey show for LA County. I don't think these guys understand what they're looking for and what they're stepping into. I don't believe any one of these 2 companies that are looking to excuse me, I don't know if any of these 2 companies really understand what they're jumping into and have actually gotten their permit yet. I know they're looking to apply for these permits, but I don't know if they actually have gotten the permit yet. So no emergency injunction to the bar. The permit requirement, it could have been appealed to, I guess, to the state water board. So for every region in California, there are multiple regions. The Ventura LA County region is one region, central region, and that region could have been appealed to the state water board, but I don't think anyone did. It's the administrative process. Yeah, pass within 30 days. Yes, happened to pass within 30 days. Seems it's extremely unreasonable. It is very, I can't even tell you how unreasonable this whole permit process is. Let me just point out another part of this permit process that I want to point out in this. In their permit process, you have to file a 1-year notice of intention, NOI, that says we plan on doing a fireworks show a year from now in said location. Okay, so that very requirement is not being followed in their own permit application. So which means you have to apply now for next year, right? Never mind the fact they don't even have an actual application to fill out. If they would have instituted in come August and said, you know what, we're going to institute this for August, an application progress or process starting in August, for that would be applications for shows in, say, October, November, December. That would be one thing. But they didn't even do that. They just said, we're going to institute this now and make it effective immediately with no clarity on any of this situation. And I just want to remind everyone that this is the same water board that did the extensions for the AES power plant site. We should get the photo out with a big, long black smoke. When you see those photos of the power plant site, that's what they renewed. Yeah, that's where we are with that. So other questions, let's see, the count of emails. Yes, my email is Evan. I will write my email in the chat to you. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's go to Facebook. Any questions here on Facebook? All right. Yes, show is canceled. So many shows. So right now in LA County, I believe 6 or 7 shows have been canceled. You should, write the LA Water Board. Let them know. They're the ones responsible for this. They're making a significant amount of liability with not having a clear process and concise process so late in the season. You know, these types of things, you need lots of planning to do it safely, to do it properly. You need lots of planning. You know, proper prior planning is what it's all about. So developing drone shows. So, you know, the idea of drone shows has been brought up quite a bit. Dodgers does drone shows. Drone shows are very expensive. I think the minimum is $75,000 to $100,000 per drone show, and it's very short. It's not the really cool thing that people are thinking that it does. I've seen one myself. It's kind of cool, but it's not for the price. Like I said, Dodgers does it. They do some effects, they do some cool stuff, but it's not for the price that they quote and they charge for something like this. You would expect a lot more. For instance, a half-hour fireworks show, a quality half-hour fireworks show, or a 20-minute fireworks show, charge $30,000-$40,000 for. A drone show, 10-minute show, $100,000. Those are the numbers. That's the comparisons. If you do a laser show, well, lasers only work if there's kind of like, if there's smoke, if there's some sort of fog, you can actually see the lasers. But if it's completely dark, you can't really see the lasers. Or you have a backdrop. You need a backdrop. There was a report on channel 2, KCBS channel 2. Let's see if I can find that for people. They just did a news report on this. Easy Reader did an article on this, and a lot of people are, not very happy about this. So complain to the water board. If I can try to find the LA water board for you. Let's see if I can get a contact there here real quick while I'm looking at some of the other questions. Anyone have any questions? I want to put their hand up and say anything or something. Feel free. I don't see anyone with their hands up right now. They have actually, LA Water Board has a meeting this week, Thursday. Stephen Colin, you have your hand up.
Can we have the fireworks at Dominguez Park?
You can try to go for it. Call into the council on Tuesday, see if that will work. That's the first place I said to go put the fireworks at on land. City staff were thinking South Bay Performing Arts Center. I said that didn't really make much sense, and I said to them, "How about the Dominguez Park?" So that you see that in the staff report.
Okay, there's plenty of parking. Plus, you can use a baseball field. There's a small field, and there's a regular little league field, and we can even open up the museum that night. Let people visit the museum while they're watching fireworks.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. The only problem with that is we are so close to 4th of July. I mean, right now we're what, 2 weeks away from 4th of July? 1, 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks away from 4th of July. So I'm not sure what the company has in terms of resources to be able to do a show like this.
Would the city allow us to use Safe and Sane fireworks? Bring them in from, like, say, Lawndale, where you buy them by Der Wiener Schnitzel?
So that's a great question, actually. The city does not allow any Safe and Sane fireworks. All fireworks are illegal in city of Redondo Beach. In fact, Jeff Ginsburg, been talking to him regarding allowing or getting a Safe and Sane fireworks, a permit to do Safe and Sane fireworks show down on his show. So years ago, I tried to allow, I mean, let's just be honest here for a moment. So everyone here says, I hear fireworks right now every single night. And on 4th of July, while I'm not around here in this neighborhood on 4th of July, I hear about it from other people. There's fireworks going off everywhere. Community block parties in Redondo Beach have Safe and Sane fireworks everywhere, from what I've heard. Years ago, what I tried to do was say, you want to have a block party on 4th of July, you can have a block party on 4th of July. And if you want to have a separate permit to allow for Safe and Sane fireworks, we will give you that permit. Now, what's good about that is we'll have the ability to hold someone responsible if there are illegal fireworks or if there's trash or fireworks left over in the street the next day. So the problem is with fireworks enforcement now is the officers actually have to see somebody holding the firework and lighting the firework off. If there's firework going on and people are just standing around looking at the fireworks, the officer can't cite anyone. Doesn't know who owns it, doesn't know who set it off. And when he asked, the officer asked the patrons, say, who set this off? And everyone says, I don't know. Some kid down the street did. He ran, or some guy, or some lady, whoever it may be, right? So the officer has to actually physically see the action happening, which presents large problems. So my solution years ago was all these block parties are happening in the city regardless. Why don't we allow block parties to get a fireworks permit? And then people like Jeff Ginsburg down there can have an area where you can do Safe and Sane fireworks. And that would allow us to have somebody responsible. We can have insurance and we do it in a responsible manner. But right now, all fireworks are not allowed in Redondo Beach. I say that, it's not tongue in cheek. I know when 4th of July comes around, you'll see fireworks everywhere happening everywhere around you and hearing of it, right? What does it take to get a safe and sane permits for Redondo Beach? Like I said, there's no permit in for Redondo Beach. It's just not allowed. I tried doing that. But it's impossible. A couple of years ago, there's a direct correlation, just so everyone knows, there's a direct correlation between a professional fireworks show being held in a neighborhood and the use of illegal fireworks. When you have a professional fireworks show being done, illegal fireworks goes down. It's statistically proven, it's shown everywhere throughout. When you don't have a professional fireworks show somewhere, the amount of usage of illegal fireworks and safe and sane fireworks, I might add as well, goes up dramatically. And the reason being is people can go and actually watch a fireworks show rather than actually doing the fireworks themselves. So it's and there's a lot of support for fireworks statewide. And officers' priority should be real crime, not fireworks. I agreed. A couple of years ago, when we didn't have a fireworks show on 4th of July, we had on 3rd of July, we had teams of officers and firefighter going around and giving out tickets to people who were lighting off fireworks. Didn't make very many people happy, and a lot of people, yeah, they weren't too happy with getting those tickets, and I think a lot of those were actually ended up being dismissed for lack of evidence. So yeah, any other questions? Anyone raise their hand? If you find an area to do on land to do fireworks, the problem with doing land on fireworks, yeah, tons of fireworks every single night, right? The problem with doing fireworks on land is you need space. Redondo Beach doesn't have a lot of space. I don't think the BCHD area would work. Dominguez Park would be a great location to do some of the fireworks. You could do up to 4-inch shells. You wouldn't really want to do larger than 5-inch shells because you need the space. And like the speaker before, Mr. Colin said, you have parking, you have space, you have the historic building. You could do a really cool event. Again, the problem is we are so close to 4th of July now. If this would have happened in early May, we could have been able to realign the resources for everyone, for the fireworks contractor, for the city, because the city will need to be part of this as well and move this forward. Ask on Tuesday for Dominguez Park option. I would highly recommend. And if you want to see a fireworks show on July 1st or 2nd, or even on 3rd or Monday, July 3rd, ask for that and see if the city will be willing to go forward with that. Just as a kind of insider knowledge for this, fireworks shows that are shot before 4th of July, so the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, or afterwards, 5th, 6th, or 6th, 5th, 5th, 6th, 7th, have significant discounts because they have equipment, they have the personnel, the operators, the licensed operators in place. So if you want to do it on Saturday or Sunday or even that Monday, I am doing a show for the city of Linwood on Monday, July 3rd at one of their parks. They get a big discount for the show. So Redondo could do the same thing. So if you want to do that in Dominguez Park, I think it's a fantastic idea. It's centralized. It's centralized for the city. Everyone knows it's going to be there. And you have lots of parking. You can get some food trucks. You can get, it's about getting the council on board. So email the council, let the council know. It's item M1, I believe. M1. And then, maybe like Mr. Colin's idea, you can open up the historic library there, or not library, historic center, historical museum, and it would be, I think it'd be a really, really cool event. Now, Alta Vista, I see a comment here about Alta Vista. I brought up Alta Vista. I thought about Alta Vista. Amazingly enough, when I asked my community meeting regarding Alta Vista, everyone who was living in that surrounding area was absolutely for it. I didn't think that would happen. the Alta Vista location for me, I think, was great, but the only problem with it is you are very centralized in a residential area. And Dominga, if you weigh out the two in terms of space, you have more space at Dominguez Park, more parking, more space. You have the dog park there. You have lots of, you can shoot larger product. It goes higher up. In Alta Vista, you're gonna have a lot of residential area there. And there's a question here: could the power vendor do a ground-based display at Dominguez Park without mortars? Absolutely. I just shot a fireworks show for the high school, Barstow High School, and they don't have any mortars. They have all what's called the cakes. It's this large. You can buy these actually back east in the Midwest. They're big boxes and they go up. They're very large. Consumer fireworks back east are very powerful, are very impressive, extremely impressive. So you can significantly reduce your cost, and you can do the show differently as well at Dominguez Park if you don't do any mortars. Mortars would not be a problem up until a certain size. So like I said, about 4 inches in size, maybe about 400 feet. So every inch equals 100 feet, roughly speaking. I've told staff that they would it would be a great location, great time on Dominguez Park. You guys got to get on board with having it on Saturday the 1st, Sunday the 2nd, or Monday the 3rd. And that's what I would recommend. Email them. That would be my recommendation to everyone. Any other questions? So yes, we control Dominguez, so eliminate school board. So yes, there was an idea to put the fireworks show at the high school, but the high school and that would work on Monday, July 3rd, but not on the weekend. I think they have something going on at the high school. There was a fireworks show at the high school for their homecoming this last fall in October. So it would work there. You could do big stuff, but you could do smaller stuff. It would be possible as well. I see lots of ideas here in the chat. I think this is awesome. I think it's really, really cool. You guys are, I would highly suggest here. Let me tell you what, I'm going to put an email address into the email, into the chat, cityclerk@redondo.org. And the reason I'm doing that is you want to comment on item. Let me open up the, I believe it's M1. Before I say it's M1 and you quote me on that, let me make sure it's M1. Open up the agenda for tomorrow night. Yes, M1, discussion of possible action regarding city's 4th of July fireworks display. So I would comment to city clerk your ideas. Dominguez Park on the weekend. M1 as in Mary. M1 as in Mary. You know, it might actually work out better that we didn't have the meeting last week. We're getting a lot more interest in this. People are getting the news out that this is being moved to a different day. So I don't know what the vendor's going to say. I think the vendor should have, like I said, they should have some resources maybe. I'm not sure if they will or not. Depends. I don't know. I'm not them. So we would volunteer our front yard. Yeah, I think a lot of people are doing fireworks in their front yard. Any other comments, suggestions? Anyone want to raise their hand or comment or anything? Let me check on Facebook as well. Don't see any on Facebook. Party at Steve's. Let's see here. All right. So if there's no new messages on this, then we're going to move on. Steve, you are not muted. I'm going to mute you. There you go. All right. So who has authority to make this happen? So just to recap real quick, the city council has the authority to make this happen. you give your opinions to the city council on, email them right now before you forget. Real simple. When you want it, Monday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. Where you want it, Dominguez Park or high school. And what else? That's it. That's all I want. And just let them know. I don't think it's going to happen on July 3rd. Don't vote for July 4th. Excuse me. Do not vote for July 4th. Just not going to happen. So put your email to cityclerk@redondo.org. And we are going to move on to the next item, which is, now I got so many people here. We're going to talk about something that has been on the ballot for the last 20 years. And before I get going, I would like to know from the public for the AES bankruptcy. So right now, a guy named Leo Polsnikov has bought the AES power plant site. Oh, you know what, by the way, real quick, LA Water Board, I don't have an email for the LA Water Board. I was going to send that. I'll put that in the comments if I find it a little bit later on. So Leo Polsnikov has bought the AES power plant site, and it was an unknown number up until about 2 weeks ago. He, to recap, Leo Polsnikov signed on a dotted line in 2019, I believe it is, for an unknown sum and a private deal, which is a private transaction between AES Southland and Leo Polsnikov and all of his many dozen entities. He's been making payments to the tune of what I've read so far, roughly $28 million. Final deferred, or actually just a little bit less than that, or $27 million I see here in here. And he's been renegotiating along the way. He put some money down and he's been paying money, and he's been AES has held a note on the value. And I'd like to know from everyone here, put it in the chat, splurt it out. How much do you think Leo Polsnikov signed on the dotted line to buy the AES power plant site back in 2019? Anyone have any guesses? And if you've seen the paperwork, he recently said it was valued $120 million. He said in some other paperwork that it was valued at $150 million. Leo Polsnikov is a gentleman not from around here, who is a speculator. He's never built anything. He buys properties, holds them, tries to change the zoning, tries to do something, and then get new zoning on that property. And then when he gets new zoning, then sells that property with the new zoning. Leo has turned in an application for 2,700 units on the AES power plant site using some extremely wonky government code sections. And so I would like to know what you guys feel he signed on the dotted line for. And if you guessed 120 million, you are wrong. If you guessed 120 million or 100 million or 80 million, you would be wrong. He bought it for $50 million. Right here. Right there. Purchase price means a sum which equal to $50 million plus a deferred payment amount. That's how much he paid for it. That's how much he signed for it. Not that he's paid $50 million for it. That is how much he has agreed to buy the site for. There are many addendums to this, and one of the addendums right here, let me get this right here, it changes the purchase price from $50 million to $55 million. We paid $5 million more. And there's termination agreements. So deleting the words 15 million down to $10 million, performance, indemnification. So basically he has signed on dotted line to buy the AES site for $55 million. It is roughly 52 acres of land. And anyone remember the deal that Leo Polskoff sent, says we will sell the city of Redondo Beach $2 million of an acre, 1 acre land for $2 million up to 25 acres. Remember how he said that? And he said we can use some state funding. We got some state funding all lined up, ready to go. Well, he said that because there's this weird little clause here on this agreement for postponement of final closing. So after they got this extension, the AES got extension through the LA Water Board. Okay, just want to pause there for a moment. The LA Water Board extended the operating period for 3 years. First was one extension for 1 year, then it was another extension for 2 years. The power plant, the oldest power plant in California, least efficient power plant in California, spews black smoke, all the environmental damage. The LA Water Board, how they care about the environment. Will they let this go through? Well, here is what they're seen to be fighting over. And this is the seller agreement. So postponing, the postponement for closing date. And of these closing dates, they will increase payment fees and payment amounts to AES. There's also options to buy. I'll have to find it. Let me find it here. Options to buy the power plant site. Or for the city to buy the power plant site. And this is all in the purchase documentation that has been given. I'd have to find, I don't have it here with me exactly, but it looks like he is behind on payments to the tune of $28 million as per the agreement. And then there's a lot of interests in there as well. So I think AES said somewhere in total purchase price right now, roughly $60 million, or right in $61 million in total, including the different types of interest that are being collected by AES for the purchase price. So that's the happening on that. The extension that was granted, there's multiple extensions that were granted by the water board, seems to be causing a little bit of an issue in this agreement. What kind of extension they get? If they got a 1 year extension or they got a 3 year extension. It basically, what this all comes down to is Leo Polskoff is someone who does not who signs a contract and renegotiates the contract. And I think AES is looking, didn't realize who they were selling their property to. So let me see if I can find the agreement. I think it was a first agreement. Bankruptcy, Wilshire A first agreement. This is all this information you can download from the federal court system, just so everyone knows. That's where I got it from. It's real simple to get. It's part of the bankruptcy proceeding. So AES has foreclosed on the property. And now, actually, I take it back. What has happened is AES has foreclosed on the property and they're going through bankruptcy. And so Leo has bankrupted one of his LLCs that's buying or trying to buy the property. And now he has filed a lawsuit against AES. And these addendums, these attachments are from that particular lawsuit. So the lawsuit, the complaint against AES includes the entire agreement for the last 4 or 5 years that Leo and them have been working out. Let's see here, purchase. Let me see if I can. I'm going to take an extra minute here and find out if I can find here real quick the actual agreement with the purchase. if they don't renegotiate the contract, what happens? Well, basically what happens, so just from what I've learned just through from all of this, is it needs to happen. This needs to be resolved in the reverse order that this has happened. So first came the foreclosure, then came the bankruptcy, and then came the lawsuit. So the first thing that needs to happen is the lawsuit needs to be resolved that Leo Polsakov has against AES. Then the bankruptcy needs to be resolved that Leo Polsakov has currently on the largest entity, owns 21% of the LLC, 21%. There's 12 entities, I believe, and this particular entity that went bankrupt is owns 21%. And let's see here, let me find that. And then so that the bankruptcy needs to be resolved. And once the bankruptcy is resolved, to see if there's enough money in the LLC that's remaining, then the foreclosure can either move forward or not move forward. So the AES power plant site will be in operation to the end of the year, and then they do not have a permit to continue to operate. I can't find the agreement here off the top of, but wait, actually, no, I don't have it. I don't have it here. I don't have it here, but there's an agreement, and the amount of land that is an option to buy is in here as well. So I'm going to share my screen here. There was a question asked, what parcel, and this is one part of the original agreement that was signed, or not original, that was signed as part of one of the amendments, one of the amendments that was signed to buy for the option for Redondo Beach to buy. And there was a question at my community meeting, and I didn't have the map, and what is the parcel? So let me share my screen here. This right here is the 15 acres of open space that the city would as per the agreements, park parcel, represents a city option land. So this area right in here, I'll draw this for you. This area right here, if you can see that with a strip of land here, a little pathway, a little road, this here is what the city would have the option to buy. This is in the documents, open space covenant. So this is a covenant, meaning it is recorded as part of the agreement for sale from AES to Leo. He had to agree to this particular aspect of the sale right here. This area right here, I can see this area, but there's a little roadway right here, and then this land where the water tanks, or actually old oil tanks are, it's all being flooded. That's 15 acres of land. And if you notice, it looks a little bit different than what was Leo has proposed on his current project. Somebody brought that up at my community meeting, does this line up? And I said, no, it doesn't look like it to be. So yep, sounds like he's stalling. Does Redondo Beach have a right to buy utilities upfront property like Manhattan Beach with Bruce's Beach? So what is, it's all very complicated at this point in time. All I'm going to say is, does the city have a right to buy this? No, they do not have a right to buy anything right now. The deal has not gone through, which means none of this stuff is official. If the deal were to have gone through, then we would have the right or ability to buy that 15 acres of land as per the covenant that he signed. But we would have to also know about it and have to have the money. This is not Leo's development proposal. Leo's development proposal is a separate screenshot. Oh, actually, if you did I see someone did a screenshot there. I'm not sure what that is. Um, right now, oh yes, that screenshot right there. I will actually, whoever just did that, Evan, I'm going to share this for everyone to look at. Actually, this picture was brought up during my community meeting. Actually, so everyone sees this development, this massive development, 2,700 units. So if you notice, I'm going to draw on here. If you notice this area back here, change the color to red. So you see that this color right back here, this area is where the water area, or the not the water, the large call it old oil tank storage is. So just roughly speaking, that's where the old storage tank is back there. Wetlands, actually, the California Coastal Commission deemed this whole area wetlands, and this little path right here, that's where the path lined up earlier a minute ago. So this is 2,700 units plus commercial plus hotel. And this is what his plan looks like. This is one heck of a screenshot. This is a very clear screenshot. 2,700 units. That's this thing would go for. The currently zoned, this power plant site is for a park, which is polluted. So it's a polluted park with a conditional use for utility. So anything else outside of that is not zoned for. Any other changes in zoning, the would have to go to a vote of the people of Redondo Beach. And you voted on this over the last 20 years, generation of voters to convert this to parkland. So that's the real skinny of a big long beat, a big long conversation. So literally 20 years people have been voting on this to make this in the parkland. Let me get to some questions by some people. Let's see here. Thank you for the comments on the water board mail samples. Yes, thank you very much. Perfect. Contact us. That's a great link, Mel. Appreciate that. So Redondo buying AES now. Redondo is not buying AES. We are in what's called not intervener, but kind of someone who's getting involved, I guess, intervener for the bankruptcy proceedings, because we have a vested interest in this zoning and what happens to this project. So he owns the property across the street, the old C Lab location. He bought that for $9 million. That's in this paperwork here. Actually, $8 million, 8.2 million. I want to say 8.2, $8.3 million he bought it for. It's in the actual first agreement as well. The exact price, I want to say 8.2 million. So all that is in there. He owns that free and clear. He's doing work on that. And let's see here. So if the voters don't change the zoning, can Leo still build on it? No, he cannot, Danny. He cannot build on it. He can put a park at that location, and he can get a conditional use permit for utility. And that just basically means he bought a polluted park with the ability to get a conditional use for some type of utility. And no value in that. So Mr. Wayne Craig, you have your hand up. Go ahead and ask. If anyone else had any questions, go ahead and raise your hand, or you can put it in chat and I will look at the Facebook as well.
I had a question. I'm fascinated on the sale price. Obviously, I know we talked about that at the meeting that you had a couple weeks ago. Other question about with that is now he's saying he paid $50 million. How much transfer tax did he actually pay to Redondo Beach when the property was purchased? Because I've seen all sorts of different numbers. It was 28 million, 10. I mean, pick a number. Has the city actually received that money? And if not, should the city attorney go after him?
So couple of good questions, some of good points in there. So yeah, he recorded the value of the site at $20 million with LA County Registrar Recorder's Office. I believe he has filed an appeal on that value, saying that the value of this location is only worth $13 million. But yet in the bankruptcy proceedings and in the public proceedings, he's all saying it's anywhere between $120, $150 million. he's being assessed on $28 million. I talked to LA County assessors on this the LA County assessor, Jeffrey Prang. He's being assessed on $28 million. That's what he's being assessed on. So that's what he's paying property taxes on. Now, with that said, when you go to the title and transfer tax, that's the fee that City of Redondo Beach has for title transfer. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if he paid it or how much it was. I don't think he has. And the reason why, just spitballing here, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a real estate lawyer. I'm not Jeffrey Assessor's office, Jeffrey Prang assessor. I don't think he's paid because the title of the property has not actually been transferred to the new owner. It's only an option, essentially an option to buy. He's created an option to buy with a down payment. So he put down $28 million, record that with the assessor's office for $28 million and said, I will pay tax on that. And that's the value of it. And then, but the actual transfer of title won't happen until he actually signs on the dotted line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's just a way to confuse the issue, obviously. But but typically, what all that's really happened in this sale is like like when you buy a home from your neighbor, you get a mortgage, so the bank actually holds title, and then they transfer it to you. So they actually are on the note. This is the same thing. It's just the AES is the finance, the bank. So for all intents and purposes, there was a transfer. But yeah, I see. I could see you're right. This is something an attorney is going to have to look into.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is I'm not a real estate attorney. I'm not the assessor's office. This is commercial property. I don't know if the title and transfer tax that Redondo Beach has applies to this particular issue because it's commercial property. I would assume it does, but I honestly, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. The only reason why I say I'm pretty sure he hasn't is me doing the budget for the last couple of years. I haven't seen a massive uptick. You would see a $20 million transfer. You would see a large chunk of change going to Redondo Beach. I haven't seen that. I don't think I've seen that. At least I haven't remembered seeing that. I could be wrong.
You're not alone. I don't remember seeing it either. So
yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Where's the aquarium? Leslie, I'll call on you next. Where's the aquarium going to be? I don't know if there's any. Oh, Leslie, your hand is up. Never mind.
Yeah, so that is me. So I'm just wondering what you said that he's working on that currently. Do you know what that's going to be? What it is?
Working on what? The C Lab location.
Yeah, the C Lab.
So he's doing something there at that location. There was a for lease sign and now it says it's leased. I've heard rumors that he's doing work or someone's doing work. Someone leased it and someone is doing work inside internally on that location. I don't know what's going on. There was a for lease sign. Now there's no for lease sign. I know it's for sale on the commercial market. You could buy the property if you want. Your guess is as good as mine. What's happening in terms of, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see here. Anyone else have their hands up? Can the city put Leo bankruptcy for failure to pay the taxes? I don't know. It's a good question. That's a very good question, actually. Not in bankruptcy. We would be able to put some sort of lien on the property, I'd assume. Not sure what that would entail. Is there a specific time period this needs to become a park, or does it happen when whoever develops the land to start the project? So that's a really good question, Danny. So the question is, will this automatically become a park? The answer is no, it will not automatically become a park. The city of Redondo Beach has to act on its option to buy the land. So there's up to 15 acres. I believe that there's up to 25 acres. If I really need to find this option, actually. It's really starting to bug me. There's a really clean portion in one of these amendments about the option to buy. Anyways, we have to actually fulfill the option. It means we have to actually come up with the money to buy it. So if it's 25 acres of land, it would be 50 acres, $50 million for the 25 acres. That's actually post cleanup too. I want to add that to the conversation. That's post cleanup. So let's see. If anyone else has any questions, go ahead and is $2.20 per $1,000. That's a good, that's what it is. So $2. So yeah, let's divide that out. $2.20. So so $28 million divided by 1,000 times $2.20. I will take these questions up regarding the entitlement and transfer tax, additional property tax to the city attorney. So some of these are different questions actually. So remember, anything that comes regarding property tax goes to this assessor's office and the tax collector, which are two different offices, right? So the assessor's office just assesses property on the value of a property. And then the tax collector actually collects the tax. When it comes to the title and transfer tax, that's something the city of Redondo Beach has. So we would need to go, I don't know who would enforce that. That's actually a really good question. I'll have to bring that up. Let's see here. Any other questions? This is A, this is B. Uh-oh. There it goes. Okay. Termination, first extension. Fees. Man, this is really aggravating me that I can't find the agreement. I thought I had it printed out, ready to go. I had the wrong section. Anyways, all right. It is what it is. Any other questions? Let me check on YouTube. I don't see any questions here on YouTube. Yeah, okay. All right. So if there's no more questions in the chat, when a realistic, here is a couple questions. Realistic time frame for Leo to get all this stuff sorted out. I couldn't give you a realistic time frame. There's a lot of moving parts here. Like I said, the first thing that needs to be sorted out is this lawsuit that Leo has against AES. And that's to determine essentially what that lawsuit is determine the value of the purchase price. I know that sounds weird. It could happen by the end of the year. It could happen in a year from now. It's a very complicated transaction that Leo has set up. So Leo put down a chunk of change, roughly $28 million. Then he borrowed the rest, up to 50 million. Then it went up to 55 million and borrowed the rest on that. Then he said, I'm going to start paying you down that, and there's going to be different interest rates on that. He's been paying that, and then he stopped paying. There's been different interest rates been put in place. And so the range that he owes needs to be figured out via the court system. And then there's credits as well. There's roughly $14-15 million worth of credits because of these extensions that Leo says he is owed and he is due. So I think it could be, it's in AES's best interest to get this done and taken care of ASAP. And in Leo's interest, he wants to take his time. That's the best way to put it. I can put it. So I think once the dominoes start falling, for instance, once this latest lawsuit is done and the value is figured out, then the bankruptcy can move forward. That will happen pretty quickly within 2-3 months, I think. And then the foreclosure will happen or not happen. Suddenly the LLC could be well funded suddenly with a lot of money. So who knows? Yes, Metro. So next up is Metro. Enough talk about AES. A lot of updates on Metro on the C line. So let me pull up my notes for this. So last week, I went to downtown LA, and Metro has a yearly meeting for a bunch of cities. They give a presentation with the whole board. That's the Metro well, all the department heads, and they gave a presentation on where they're going, what they're doing. And mayor, council members, and staff were invited. Actually, mayors and staff were invited. I went in place of Mayor Brand. Ted Simon, our public works director, was there. And I basically posed the question. I said, after listening to them, they have a graph, they have an issue, and that is what's something called an operating cliff. So in 2025, the ridership and revenue stream derived from that ridership will be coming off a cliff. Literally, they call an operating cliff. So they need ridership. They need ridership badly. They need funding. There's no backstop for that funding. They have all these projects, capital improvement projects, all these different rail extensions. They know the bus, people are not riding the bus as much as they used to. That's not changing. Ridership on the rail lines is increasing or held steady. What they are concentrating on for their bus lines, or for their roads, I should say, on their roads, they're concentrating on strategically changing public roads to be mass transit before private transportation. What does that mean? That means creating bus lanes, bus only lanes. So down Hawthorne Boulevard and other streets, create bus only lanes, taking out parking and taking out traffic lanes for these bus lanes. It's a strategy that they're moving forward on to get people onto buses. That way buses move faster. They're also looking at extending the rail lines and creating more rail lines to get more people to ride on the rail line so they can increase their ridership. They want to develop their bus and rail lines towards workforce development, people-centered transit. That's what they're looking for in the next in rounds of improvement, capital improvement projects. So I asked a question. I asked pros and cons, long-term costs. So particularly for the green line here, for the right-of-way extension or the Hawthorne Boulevard extension, I said, look at the long-term cost of building out these extensions versus the short-term cost. Meaning, we build the rail line, it's for the next 100 years. What's $2 or $3 billion amortized over 100 years, 120 years? It's nothing. And when you combine that with ridership versus infrastructure, if you put your infrastructure in areas that you won't have the ridership, then you just spend a bunch of money where you don't have riders. They understood that in my comments and my question to them. Like I said, the deputy second in command came up to me directly afterwards. We had a 45-minute conversation, and the conversation was about understanding our point of view, why the right-of-way does not work, why the Hawthorne option does work. Robert Pullen Miles made a great comment as well. Unfortunately, he had to leave early. What they're focused in on, when I say they, I mean Metro. And that is coming up with a solution, recommending a solution to the board that has workforce development as number one. I should say number one, as one of their points. A second point is people-centered traffic or transit, so that wherever this transit goes, it's where it's workforce housing. So where people live, where people work. So Long Beach, terminus locations such as Torrance, Hawthorne Boulevard, that all falls within that scope. They know that bus lines can move and change, but this type of infrastructure does not change. So they're looking, where is development happening over the next 50 years, next 30 years? Where is that development going to take place? Housing, residential housing development, commercial development. A lot of issues been brought up regarding Torrance and the terminus, the new transit center in Torrance that was just opened up about a week and a half ago. Huge center, $25 million, roughly speaking. And, you know, Metro are looking at all four options. They don't like the no option of not doing the extension. And that is because they primarily see this conversation coming back in 20, 30 years from now. They're basically saying, hey, listen, we have the money. All options are underfunded, but we can find money. We can get money from different locations. So if we're going to do this, let's do this right. They want to build this infrastructure, have it terminus in Torrance. They are pushing for that. They want to do that. The high-speed bus option that connects the transit center in Torrance to the end of where the end of the Green Line is currently in place. I feel the conversations that I've had with them, they don't like that idea because there's no direct route between the two. B is they're trying to get buses off the road and activity off and traffic off the road. And it's also not very reliable. You're going between this stretch of two areas. So that for them, it leaves two options, which is the right-of-way option extension, the Hawthorne Boulevard extension. We had a great conversation on that, really getting her to understand. I showed the video of the freight line. She did not know how really close this freight line is to the neighbors' backyards. And when I showed her the video that I took in April of 2022, I think she was shocked to see how close it was. And I told her this is going to be, 20 feet closer to people's backyards, 10 feet away. So this is what people are worried about. It's a legitimate worry. Their thought process right now is looking at what other areas like the Gold Line. This is not the first time Metro has had this problem. They've had this problem in other cities, other communities, and the way they've resolved this issue is doing walks through the right-of-way and the Hawthorne Boulevard option. She's open to that. She brought it up with me as well and says, let's get a walk with the board members, with Metro, down these different areas so that they understand from a team, executive level leadership, the residents know and what's going on. All these people in Redondo know. But when this first option going down the right of way was made back in 2007, 2008, right in there, I think the thought process was, well, it's just really simple. We have an existing rail line. We can move the rail line over a little bit. It's not going to cost that much money. We have a transit center happening here in Redondo. That's being planned. Let's just put it down. It's just simple. And it is what it is, and it's no big deal. So I think they've realized since through the 2,000 plus comments that you guys have given, they are listening to those comments. They are reading them, intently listening and reading to them. It's making a huge impact. They've realized now that's not not as simple as they had first anticipated it to be back 12 plus years ago. And so I think they're honestly reevaluating all these options. And when they see the South Bay Galleria being built with 300 units with 20% affordability, I was sort of talking about how I got in the affordability aspect of the Galleria project, 20% highly affordable or 10% affordable. They're very interested in that. They're interested to know that the Galleria is doing its redevelopment project and that there's going to be all these jobs. There's going to be office space there. It's going to be a hub, a center. They are looking at the RENA numbers and they said, we understand the RENA numbers, the state's forcing you to do all this planning. We are taking this into consideration where the housing will be built in the next 20, 30 years. We don't want housing being built in South Redondo. We want it being built where we have mass transit, preferably where our bus lines or rail lines are going to be at. Access to the rail lines. Again, workforce housing, workforce development housing. Those are keywords that were used over and over again. They will be talking to the COG, the Council of Governments, South Bay Council of Governments. They were very interested in hearing what they have to say. And when it comes to this conversation, they have all very specifically said, that there is no expectation that any of this will be done by the LA 2020. It will be years later down the line. There's no way that this is going to happen. So let me go check out your comments. If you have any hands, any questions, Leslie, your hand is still up. I think you want to lower your hand, I think. I'll lower it for you. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and raise them now. Or I'll start looking in the comments as well. Let's see here. All right. Leo took out a loan. Old Leo's updated Metro. Yes, the public transit system. Well, public. So let me address the public transit system is unsafe right now. This is actually a really important comment. I think Metro looks at the current safety issue with the buses and trains and the terminus. If you guys saw an article about the terminus locations of all of the rail lines now in Long Beach and Santa Monica, turning into homeless havens. They are attacking and they're having public safety issues on the rail lines. They're attacking that front and center. They don't have the resources. They're constrained with resources, but they're finding resources. They're working with cities. They're working with the county. They made a comment about how they believe they need to work with cities, and cities have the resources to deal with the safety, public safety issue, the homeless issue on the trains. Well, there was a council member from San Fernando, Celeste Rodriguez. Worked with her quite a lot. She put her hand up and said, hey, listen, you just said that cities have resources. Guess what? We don't have resources. We barely get any Measure H funding. Measure H funding, just so everyone knows, is a county sales tax initiative. It's for homeless housing in LA City. It's Measure HHH. All that goes into one pot. We barely get any funding for cities like Redondo Beach from what we put in. A lot of cities hardly get even a drop back. The county takes it and spends it how they see fit. That's changing. The county has said that they're changing that. And so when Metro heard that, they took back and says, you know what, you're right. We're not stating that correctly. We want to work with you to go to the county, the board of supervisors, to get you the funding so that we can work together to move forward to dealing with the homeless issue. They see it as a temporary, 10-year problem, 15-year problem to deal with these issues. And Torrance has a significant concern with end of the line. There's a conversation here. We go end of line city. Yes, Torrance is an end of line city, and Torrance has a significant issue with that because they're going to be end of the line. Right, Redondo Beach right now is end of the line for the green line. Right now, we don't have the major issues, knock on wood, that other cities do, like Long Beach or Santa Monica. And the reason why is because we don't have. It's a little bit of an island, a desert island, where the current green line ends. There's really hardly any commercial services. There's no homeless services, no free food services. There's very little in terms of places for people to go. So when you look at Santa Monica and Long Beach, they have places for homeless to go. They have food, they have housing, they have services, the greatest attractions. We don't have that in North Redondo. So that's why you don't see the massive influx. Now, you have the same situation in Torrance. You don't have the food, the services, and the housing, but it's a concern. It's a real concern. Infill is expensive to purchase demo redevelopment land as opposed to cities for the eastwood raw land. Yes. Resources don't mean anything. DA account for not prosecuting criminals. I went to a meeting with Gascon last week. He is doing meetings with all cities. George Gascon. It was interesting to see some of his stats that he had. regarding not prosecution of criminals. It's was a very interesting conversation. He heard a lot from us cities regarding misdemeanor prosecutions. And I think it's, yeah, I want to go down that rabbit hole because that's a different conversation. But any other comments on Metro and the C line, or formerly known as Green Line, for what's going on? Does anyone have any questions on, let's see here, on Facebook? I don't see any questions on Facebook. If you want to raise your hand, ask any questions, let me know. Oops. That's on. Let's see here. So it will get to the airport. Yes, the C line will be connected to what's called the K line. I don't know why they're renaming all these things different from colors to letters. You will be able to take, there's an extension that's happening right now called the K line. It's going to connect the Green Line from Green Line to the K line, which goes to Aviation. And there's going to be a large transit center there where the K line will continue into Inglewood and connect with the Red Line, formerly known as Red Line, that goes through Inglewood. And so that connection at Aviation will be a drop-off center where you will get onto a people mover, which will take you directly into LAX. The future of LAX is that you will not be able to drive your car into the concourse or the U-shaped area. You'll have to be you'll be doing your drop-off and pickup at Aviation and other areas. So you won't even need to drive into the airport. So yes, the answer is all this will be connected in a few years we're saying by LA 2028. We will see. Any other questions on the Metro, C line, Green Line? Go ahead and raise your hand or just blurt it out. I don't see anything right now. All right. This brings us over to the budget. So moving right along to the budget. We have a $104 million budget that's being proposed. It is a record budget in Redondo Beach. We've never had this high level of funding in Redondo. Our revenues are back from a whole host of different areas, except for one area, and that is our transit occupancy tax, which is our hotel bed tax. And the reason why our hotel tax is not doing very well right now, even though it has come back significantly, is because of the Marine Avenue hotels. I wasn't around for this deal. I'm not sure exactly the inner workings of the deal. It's a very complicated deal, but where the Marine Avenue hotels are at, funny enough, oddly enough, where the end of the Green Line currently is at on Marine Avenue by the 405, the city owns the land underneath the hotels that are up there. They pay a base ground rent, and then they also pay a TOT tax. In order to get this deal done and for them to build these projects, these 3 hotels, I believe there are, there was a fund set up, roughly $8 million, where the TOT tax would go into this fund, in which the hotels could tap into if they got into bad years. So during COVID, when everything was shut down, the hotels dipped into this fund to the tune of roughly $4 million from the $8 million. And that fund needs to be replenished before the TOT tax goes back to the city of Redondo. So it's nothing to do with the hotel district that was set up, or visitors bureau. It is a completely different setup. So right now, our current hotel bed tax, TOT tax, I believe, is 13%. with a 1% extra tax for the what is this called? The hotel district. And the hotel district, it puts up to 14%. And that 1% funding goes to the hotel district, which all those hotels are a part of. So it's a 14% tax in Redondo Beach Tourism Business Improvement District. Thank you, Mr. Solomon. TBID, Tourism Business Improvement District. It's on the agenda for tomorrow night. That was enacted in roughly 2018 or 19. It was done after the Visitors Bureau contract was cut in 2017. And when I got elected, 10% of our TOT tax was going to the Visitors Bureau. That was cut. A year or two later, we formed what's called the Tourism Business Improvement District. And that money is going to fund that district. All the hotels are a part of. It's a volunteer district. And it's used to advertise Redondo Beach around to get people to come to our hotels in Redondo. So long story short, with the Marine Avenue hotels, they have roughly $3 million that they need to fund on that. Refund from 5 to 8, I think it is. And I think at the end of this upcoming fiscal year is when they plan on having that fully refunded. So then we'll start seeing our hotel tax coming back online for that area. But record revenues overall in real estate, our user utility tax, UUT tax, has gone up significantly. Anyone that's using Zoom right now, you are paying, if you are paying for Zoom, if you look on the bill for Zoom, there is a surcharge for a local city tax, and that local city tax goes to the city of Redondo Beach. Zoom is considered a utility streaming video service, and so electricity has gone up in households, so that also means that we have gas prices have gone up, so natural gas prices have gone up, so all these prices have gone up, has increased our funding for the user utility tax. Sales tax has gone up, record revenues in Riviera Village for the businesses, the restaurants that are down there, absolutely record revenue. The parking meter fees, record revenue, going up, doing really, really well. So we have $104 million worth of revenue. With that said, the city staff have proposed a 12% cut to the city fire department of $3 million. They are stating in the staff proposed budget that we're going to be going down, or going from what is this, $1.6 million to $350,000. Not exactly sure how that's possible when all the other prior years we've had budgets for overtime in the $1 million plus, $1.5 million plus, $2 million, $3 million range. They are proposing an addition of another administrative admin chief position for the fire department. No new positions other than that. Like I said, they're planning on cutting the fire department, the staff proposal, cutting the fire department funding by $3 million. Anyone saw the state of our fire department in the pictures that I showed? They're actually also proposing to cut the fire department maintenance and services, building services to the tune of let's see here. Where is it here? $785,000 in maintenance and operations, a 47% cut. So between maintenance and operations and total personnel cut, which is 2.2, that's roughly a $3 million cut. And some of those savings, they're going to be spending elsewhere in the budget. For instance, the city staff, or actually before I go and move on from the fire department, the city staff is now saying that we need to institute a 911 paramedic fee. So if you call 911 and you get paramedics showing up at your house or in the park, or you get service for paramedics, the city staff now are recommending that you are now given a bill for $313. And they have said that other cities are doing this too, and this is standard, but it's not standard. LA County Fire Department does not do this. Torrance Fire Department does not do this. Hermosa does not do this because they're LA County. Manhattan Beach, El Segundo, they don't charge this fee. In the budget decision packages, budget response reports, they talk about cities like Huntington Beach, cities that are nowhere near around us, and it's a huge range of fees that are assessed. Staff is saying that, hey, you know what, the user doesn't have to pay, or the person getting the service doesn't have to pay. It's the insurance that has to pay. Well, what if you don't have insurance? Then who pays? Right? That means the individual is going to pay. A lot of questions that are surrounding this. And when it comes to this particular issue, the implementation is going to have to be a whole nother conversation. So we can have this fee in place and say we're going to institute it, but how are we going to institute it? So that means anyone that visits our beach and gets 911 calls, you know, the lifeguards, for instance, call Redondo Beach Fire Department all the time, almost every day. During the summer months, almost every single day. Weekends, almost every single day. That means every single visitor that comes down to our beaches or parks, our harbor, will get a $300 fee, $313 fee. Bill, I should say, not fee, bill. That means if you're in the park, you get a bill. You got to have a traffic accident, not even your fault, you will get a bill. I'd like to know what you guys think, actually. Go ahead and let me know in your comments here. Is there well, let's see here. Let's see, go to the comments. You got a lot of comments, actually. I don't see budget cuts, decision packages for the proposed cuts. How did they get to $3 million cut? $2.2 million in personnel cuts, 14% there. And then a 47% cut in total of maintenance and operations, $785,000 there. That brings you to a total cut of $3 million, $3,021,000. So 12% cut. That's how they're doing it. It's not a decision package. Okay, this is very key. This is not a decision package. It is something, just a cut that's going to happen, and that's what they're proposing, going from 24.4 mid-year and adopted last year, 24.5 adopted to 21.4, and that's what they're proposing. So I need a hand up. Gil, your hand is up, and then we'll go to Mel.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my question would be for this fee.
Yeah.
It appears that the city is very aggressive in going after people who don't pay.
Yes.
I just put it this way, of people who live here, who have homes, who don't pay certain things, and it goes to collection pretty quick. Now, my concern would be, are they going to try to implement this and then work out the details? And then now we got to work it all out? Or why can't we get this till we work out the details, if they're going to even do this, get the input from the community, and then if enough people say yay or nay, whichever, then you don't implement it. But if you sit there and put the cart before the horse and say, okay, we're going to implement this, and then suddenly come to find out that it's not cost effective or efficient at all, then it may possibly appear to take more time in the beginning. But I mean, there's questions like, what if I said, no, I never called them, so you can't force me to pay? Okay, you pay for it. The other side is, are the homeless going to be charged for this? And people say, well, they don't have any money. Well, what if the homeless guy hits a lotto tomorrow? And in fact, you'll find, if you do an audit to determine the use of the fire services, are generally more from the homeless people and not from the people with the homes. So why are we paying for them? And why is not that paid by HH money as well? Okay, or with things like that. So my concern is, why can't we just figure this out before you make the law? Because what's going to happen is, suddenly, if you put the law in, you can say, well, we invested all this time in doing the law, we have to go forward with this. Okay, so that's my concern with this, is because there's way too many issues that's coming on. Because if that's the case, then I can just sit there and say, if I fall down on my bicycle and you call fire department, then I'm going to tell you I'm homeless. I can't pay. Okay, and that's what's going to force me to pay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. You bring up a lot of good points, Gil. This is exactly what you're saying is, we're putting the cart before the horse, and that's what this comes down to. So we haven't discussed the details and the implementation to this. The reason why staff is doing this is because this is part of budget, requires a 4/5 vote. They are afraid that they're not going to get a 4/5 vote during the year after budget season. We had a strategic plan we just went over, but they didn't bring it up then not 2-3 weeks ago, a month ago. They didn't bring it up then. They're putting this as part of the budget, saying vote on this now because it takes 3 votes to pass. We will just and implement the fee. We will work out the details later. That's literally what they said. It's not a joke. So you bring up a great point to frame the conversation correctly, which is let's work out the details first, then implement the fee. And that's the way it should be done, rather than we're implementing a fee and now working on the details. Staff has says we're only going to bill the insurance people. Well, if we bill the insurance people, the user gets the bill. How's the user going to know to bill the insurance people? How do they know? Is it going to say there clearly? What's it going to look like? Is this really only just for the insurance? Is it only for people who have insurance? And to your point about homeless people, so people who have insurance pay, but the people who don't have insurance, homeless people are not going to pay. And what if somebody else called 911 for me and I don't need 911, or it was something else? Great questions here. To that point exactly, I asked in the budget response, response report, I asked staff to give a breakdown of how many calls for service on the beach happen through lifeguards, because all the calls that happen on the beach for lifeguards are not generated by the beach patron, they're generated by the lifeguards, and lifeguards call paramedic services all the time. And we're not paramedics down there. The city is. So to that point, how are you going to implement that? We're putting the cart before the horse. Mel, your hand is up. Real quick, Mel, before you get going, I will address a comment. Recall saying some paramedics are being used as urgent care and medical exam. That's not true. What's true, paramedics are being used at retirement homes and community centers like that. That's where they're being used. Mel.
Mills.
Yes, sir.
First, thanks for casting such a wide net in your invitations to your community meetings. They're always really good, and you've got a lot of great information. Just wanted to share a couple of things. One of them is at the Budget and Finance meeting. As you know, I'm on the Budget and Finance Commission. The presentation that we received from the city manager just a couple of weeks ago indicated that this fire department fee was going to be aimed at those cases where there's a transport involved. And just like the ambulance companies are allowed to bill insurance companies for their services, this would be an add-on to that. And that there would be a compassionate care clause that people that don't have insurance, can't afford it, whatever it is, that we would waive those fees. It was kind of unclear and it seemed kind of nebulous, but it sounded like there was more detail worked out than what you've shared. So I agree with you. We need to start being a little bit more in front of these issues and have a clearer plan before it's presented. So it was, at least to me, it was a little confusing when we were in the meeting. And I do know that there are a number of cities in the state that have similar kinds of programs. So I don't know if we're modeling it after one of those or how it works, but for what that's worth. The other one is this $3 million budget discrepancy. I specifically asked, we have these decision packages and are a number of these fees, for instance, the administrative chief in the fire department, is that over and above what's in the budget, or is, how does this work? And the answer was decision packages are meant to reflect things that are key changes in the budget or that are not ordinarily part of the budget. I don't understand how we would have a $3 million cut in costs in the fire department, and we would show $65,000 for an incremental fee for a fire chief and a few $100,000 for equipment. But there's $3 million that's going to go away that's not part of a decision package. I think the city council and the city manager needs to review how these budget packages are put together and what the decisions are that are being teed up, rather than burying them in the numbers. And the city council manages to have very detailed conversations with the city manager and the department heads to find out what's going on, but the rest of us have no clue. Sorry, rant over.
No, listen, that's why I have these meetings, is for you guys to give me your opinions. It's not a rant. It's 100% true what you just said. Let me just go back to the budget response report. Fire department surveyed by staff that have this feed, Long Beach Fire Department. That's in LA County. The only city that I'm going to mention here is in LA County. That's as Long Beach Fire Department. Huntington Beach Fire Department, Buena Park, Anaheim, Sacramento, Newport Beach, Orange, and Corona. Those are all outside of LA County. The fee that you just talked about regarding assessment, that was not what was described to us. This is anytime it's called for this paramedic services. In fact, Zane's comment was it's being used as, I think Nancy, correctly identified it as urgent care medical exam. You know, if you're trying to present urgent care or medical exam, right, that's when this fee gets hit in. If it's not, it's only transported, then you have an issue. Again, going back to Gil's comment, who are we charging, who are we not charging? In the staff report, it says 50% collection rate of the potential $1.87 million in possible revenue. So we're only going to potentially get $935,000 on what should be a 50% collection rate of $1.87 million. Who decides that? Who decides $313? Staff came up with this idea. I didn't come up with this idea. It wasn't on a strategic plan. They never talked to me before on this. If you have an opinion on this, send an email to cityclerk@redondo.org and let them know what you think. When it comes
Bill,
to yes,
this was exactly my point. I mean, the words that we got and the words that you got were different, and there's no document that either one of us can refer to that has all the detail. And
yeah,
I just think that's sad. And we get these things all the time. You see them all the time where we're going to have a one-time charge for XYZ, and suddenly the following year there becomes an ongoing charge to support whatever XYZ was that you didn't know about when you approved it in the first place.
yeah.
And this is I don't understand this.
So you bring up a good question about decision packages. There's two things that happen. So there's decision packages that happen in a budget, which the staff have proposed. Say these are the major changes that we have. Primarily, it's new spending or outside of traditional avenues. Hey, we have, like you'll see in IT, copiers that need to happen right now. They're outside the normal time. We need to make this assessment happen. It's a large funding request. That's a decision package. It's basically a staff wish list, right? We approve or disapprove. This is staff's recommendations. This is staff's policy choice of what they feel a budget should be, reflects. It's our responsibility as city council members to convert that policy to an agreement for us as city council members. And that's where the budget response reports come in. We start asking questions throughout the year, and we get these budget response reports, and during budget season say, where is this money coming from? How much does it cost? If we want to do this, where can we take this money from? Actions, how much, if you kind of understand how that works, right? Budget response report gives a greater clarity versus decision package, which is just a paragraph. And one of the problems I've had last few years, these decision packages, it's a one little paragraph, but there's a lot more to unpack as a whole from the whole budget. Gil, your hand is back up.
Yeah, it's interesting because about two and a half years ago, I asked a question at the Public Safety Commission concerning the amount of responses of the fire department. And from then as to, that were one, the response and also transportation. And at that time, they told me it was very complex. However, they did not ever track any of that. So they didn't know how much money they were losing. Okay, now suddenly, either because of maybe audits and such. Okay, so we don't really know if that even actually occurred where they were able to do that. I know LA City does it because every time you stop and you talk to somebody, you have to do a report. Again, Redondo says they don't do that. The second part of this is you keep referring to staff. And I know that it's a good catch-all for most of the people working within the city. But I think I can't speak for everybody, for anybody actually, but myself, but I'd like to know who proposed this. Was it the city manager who suddenly got the idea from somebody sitting in the back, finishing up their 2-hour lunch, who said, what the hell? Or did it come from the fire department based on an audit that was done by St. Kaufman? Okay, that this is what the way to alleviate extra funding. Okay. Now, thirdly, I think I brought up to you before that there are some cities that have a fee attached to all property taxes that everybody pays. This is not something I'm in favor of, but that is another factor that every person property tax is specifically detailed for emergency response. My concern would be that although there is now a fee for alarms and such, that every time you call the police to come to your house for a burglar, you're going to get charged for that as well. This opens up a door that I don't think we really should be stepping through. And if this is what the city manager who just got a raise, I mean, maybe he can afford to pay for it, but this is what he's bright ideas. I think we need to call him directly and to say, this is not something we want. Thank you.
Yeah, so I use the term city staff you are right, as a complete catch-all. So I only have one employee in the city of Redondo Beach, and that's the city manager. And his review is done, fired review is done by all 5 council members, and with mayor putting in input to that, right? So I only have one employee. I work obviously with all the department heads and city staff in general. I don't know who proposed this particular idea, if it was our interim chief butler or if it was our city manager who came up with this, where this thought process came from. I'm just telling you, this is what, I use the term catch-all because it just describes, and our city manager, Mr. Wazanski, will say flat out, this is our recommendation. We are turning this from our staff idea to you guys turn it into actual policy, you vote on it. And Mayor Brand correctly identifies, this is our budget now. This is our city council members' budget. So Councilmember Lowenstein and I have been spending a lot of time on this budget to dissect this. And we're finding a lot of things that there was a comment in here. I think it was privately, it was Chief Butler that's proposing this. I don't know for sure. It sounds kind of familiar, but I don't want to put a name before that idea. And, I'm bringing this up because we have a proposed on the budget to spend $2.5 million on a police shooting range, on a new police shooting range. We already put money, staff put in aside for an architectural firm to hire to design a shooting range. This year we have proposed $750,000 to fund, and staff has already put in here proposal to put $750,000 next year for next year's budget. So a total of $2.5 million for this shooting range, police shooting range. So that's not on the wasn't on a strategic plan, just kind of came out of nowhere. Do we need a new shooting range? Is that what we need? Or do we need to take care of our fire department and our fire stations and rebuild our fire stations? We have millions of dollars of work that needs to happen in our 64-year-old fire stations. This is why one of the consent calendar items is City Gate, item, I think H 16, 15 on Tuesday night, is about doing a third-party review of our fire department. Our fire department and the employees have been treated as they're expendable. And we haven't been spending the time on the infrastructure, on the funding. We had a fire engine that caught fire in the firehouse that is 22 years old. We have a fire engine that's 21 years old. No fire departments that I know of run fire engines that are that old in service, frontline fire service. You get rid of them after 15 years because there's no value and they fall out of certification. The maintenance goes up through the roof. So we just bought an emergency item, a new fire engine for $1 million. And you're going to see this come back. I'm bringing this up tomorrow night because we have a 21-year-old fire engine. And then there's a whole other issues with some other portions of the department. We haven't been spending the money that we need to be spending in our fire department. And I think what's important here to understand is this what we want? A new $2.5 million, or we're starting to spend $2.5 million on a police shooting range, but the total cost, drum roll please, is $10 million for a police shooting range. We're hoping to get some grants and some funding from the Air Force. We don't know. The staff report has already said it's too late for this year to get a grant in for the Air Force shooting range to help us pay for it. So I'm assuming, Gil, your hand is back down. If it's not, you can unmute yourself and I'll lower your hand for you. Janet, your hand is up.
Hi, there's already a shooting range on Bull. Why do we need another shooting range? I mean, why should the city spend all this additional money when there's already an existing shooting range?
Yeah, great question. So there is an existing shooting range for the police department that they're at. It is a really old shooting range. It is a shooting range that has an existing lawsuit on it. It's still with a lawsuit. I'm not exactly sure where that lawsuit is in the process. I think it's been on hold for a couple of years. What the police department will say, so I brought up the idea, all of our officers have to be qualified to shoot their weapons, and there's monthly or quarterly qualifications that have to, or yearly qualifications that have to happen. And by doing that, you have to actually go shoot your gun. So I asked the question, why not use a mobile shooting range or some other shooting range? And the police chief came through and said, listen, we'd really like to get a quality shooting range that is that we can set up events. We have doors and we can have cars, and we can set up incidences, and so we can train for real world incidences. It's not just a straight line of shot. It's not just for qualification purposes. To which my reply is, isn't there a shooting range like in Inglewood or the LAPD firing range or the Angeles firing range up in the Valley that we could use? And there are these different ranges. They just don't want to use them because it's an inconvenience to their training tactics. So or time, I should say. So listen, it is true. It takes an hour or two to drive up to some of these areas and an hour or two back. But that doesn't mean the qualification can't happen on a shooting range that's straight and narrow. So to me, Angeles, yes, and that's what I was talking about. Angeles, they could use that as a range. They say it's, they also use one off the 215 freeway. So I have a real problem with spending $2.5 million on this when we're cutting our fire department maintenance and operations, and we don't have the facilities that they need. I've made my point on that very clear. I think it's becoming exceptionally clear right now that Redondo Beach has a real problem with managing a fire department right now. And if we're not going to spend our money, if we want our platinum service, let's spend the money. Let's do this right. And that's what I'm fighting for. Do it right. I want to make sure we do it right, not what we're doing, what we have been doing. So, Janet, do you have any more questions on that?
I just think that if they can utilize other centers to pass some testing or something like that, that's fine. But I mean, why should the city end up expending all this additional money? I mean, I live close enough that I hear that those firings constantly in the background. And so obviously it's being utilized, and, they qualify on that. And if they need any additional training, they can go to additional facilities to, specialize in that, whatever it is that they need to, comply to whatever additional training they need.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we need to rethink this staff recommendation. I'm not a big fan of it. I see the value of what they're trying to do, but the cost, I don't believe. I shouldn't say value. I see what they're trying to do and accomplish, but I don't see the value, cost versus benefit, right? Shooting range cannot be open to the public because if it's a public range and you have insurance issues, you have other ADA accessibility, you have a whole slew of other issues that you don't want to allow a small entity like us, Redondo Beach, allow the public onto. So, yeah, I mean, LAPD, I think they used to allow public going on the fire range, but I don't think so anymore. So there's some other issues here on the budget that have been brought up. Let's see here. Mental health technician, $231,000. The city attorney's office wants another mental health. We just signed a deal for $60,000, $66,000 for mental health. He wants a second one from funding. There are, let's see, going over the budget here. Let's see. There's a whole, there's 70 budget response reports, things that have been asked for by the council and others. And there's roughly 69, 70, 68, 69 decision packages. Here, I'll tell you exactly. 77 different decision packages. Performing Arts Center to fix Performing Arts Center, recreational user pay increases. So we're going to start charging some more money for to use our city classes and programming as well as rooms. Let's see, there's funding for let's see, restrooms, closing restrooms early, historic museum, heritage court materials and supplies, $10,000. Appropriation of $30,000 for the historical museum. There's planning software, and this is important because our IT guy brought some really good points. You know, my aim for the last few years is to go paperless in Redondo. It's crazy how much staff prints out paper forms, has people sign the paper forms, fill out the paper forms, and turn the paper forms in, and then they take the paper forms and scan them or just move them around the process, the business process. By going online, you don't necessarily save a ton of money. You save time, and time is money in that respect. But there's a decision package in here for something called Tyler Munis, roughly $72,000 for what's called an API. It's a software package to allow our website to do all of these forms online. So you don't have to print things out. You can do them online. Staff can do these forms online. It starts us down a path where we can really start integrating technology into the business process, which has not been happening in Redondo Beach until now. We're getting a new website here next few months, and that new website will be able to take advantage of the licensing and software that we're buying in these decision packages that we're approving. I'm assuming that we're going to be approving tomorrow night. There are a lot of public works decision packages for vehicles, maintenance agreements. There's Beach Cities transit agreements and maintenance, and some of these costs get pushed on to LA County and the state because we have a housing department or we have a transit, and the transit is fully paid for by the state or the county. Increase in tree trimming budget. They want to increase the budget, but to $300,000, an extra $207,000 with an additional one time of $103,000. So that's an extra $300,000 for a tree trimming budget. It's a lot of money. A lot of IT equipment, HR legal expenses, $70,000 for legal expenses. And let's see here, a new analyst waterfront economic development position, and reorganization of some of these positions and areas. Decision package to hire a new person in community development department, community services department, adding some new staff. So the idea here is to provide better service to the public. Staff, I will say, has an abundance of work, to say the least, with not enough people. So the last few years have been detrimental to city staff numbers. So during COVID, we cut a lot of people and bringing a lot of these positions back. So that covers the budget. Anyone have any questions? Put it on your comments book. Let me check the Facebook comments. I don't see anything there. Moving right along. I'm going to finish up here's last few minutes here real quick because we are behind. I got a lot of things here to get to real quick. So we're going to do this a shotgun approach. Let me share my screen here real quick. Most important thing I want to get to right now is join us for our neighborhood initiative for June 24th, which is this Saturday. I'll put the link into the chat box. This is the initiative, statewide initiative. It's a fundraiser up in beautiful Palos Verdes, and the fundraiser is for raising money to get the signature gathering going and the process going for this statewide initiative. And the statewide initiative, if you don't know about Our Neighborhood Voices, is to, if it were to pass, were to take away Sacramento's ability to override our local zoning. So what this does is returns all control for local zoning, for housing. For instance, SB 9, Senate Bill 9, which takes any residential single-family unit lot, and right now you could take that lot, you could split it in half and put in 4 units by right, by law, right now. Anyone can do that. So a developer comes
You
in.
can take any lot and split it in 4 and build 4 units.
That is correct. 2 single-family units, 2 townhomes, and each one of those townhomes by law have to have a junior ADU inside of them, which makes them 4 individual units with, by the way, no additional parking requirements.
With no additional parking requirements.
That is correct. Yep. And all this arena numbers, we just upzoned by net new 3,400 net new units in Redondo Beach. That has forced us by the state of California. This initiative wipes all that off the map. So that is, I just put the link into the chat box. $100 to get in. It's on a beautiful location up in PV. Please spend the $100 and you will meet a lot of elected officials there from around the state of California, Lafayette, Emeryville, Palo Alto, Los Altos, Beverly Hills City Council member Yorba Linda. Let's see, Manhattan Beach Bill will be there. I'll be there. Manhattan Beach former mayor Russ Lesser will be there. We're trying to get Almer Suchi there. And some really rich people as well. Don't want to say their names, but really, really, really rich, really, really, really rich. So it'll be a big event. It'll be, you pay $100, you get there, you get the invite, and you can show up. It's at 12:30 on Saturday, or excuse me, 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. 1:30 on Saturday, June 24th. It is worth every penny for you to be able to spend the money and go and see what's going on. What else is happening? So someone threw in the chat box watercolors by Cesar Hernandez at the Historical Museum at Dominguez Park this Saturday. I believe, let me look at my email. This is in the morning from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Just make sure I got that right. Let's see here. Upcoming event Saturday. Art exhibit by Cesar Hernandez. He is an art teacher former art teacher. Passed away for city of high school, Redondo Beach High School. So it is from 10 a.m. I believe, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we'll open up the flyer right now. Yes, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Flagler Lane. Thank you. Special thanks to Stephen Colleen. How did I know your name is going to be on there? Showing these works from your art collection. There'll be a taco truck there. Should be a party. Should be lots of fun. So you can show up there in the morning. Go to the event at 1:30, and then when you're done at 2:30, 3 o'clock, you can come back down to the Riviera Village, because the Riviera Village has Riviera Village Summerfest. Starts on Friday, beer garden, beer tent on Friday with kids rides, and then all day on Saturday and Sunday there will be food, there will be booths, there will be bands, music, there will be a beer garden. It'll be a huge party. And I heard that the sun will be out. It'll be 85 degrees at the Riviera Village. The sun will be shining. You will be able to get your suntan. It will be a fantastic start to the summer. So come on down for that. And let's see, what else do we have here? We have let's see here, fireworks rock party, state of the city, June 29th, next week, Thursday. It is at the Sonesta. The Redondo Beach Chamber of Commerce is putting it on. I believe there's a fee to get in. I think it's $40 nominal fee. It comes with a breakfast, so you can pay the $40 and get yourself a breakfast. I think it's $40. Check right now for you just to make sure. But you get a breakfast that goes along with it, and you're gonna stay at the city. Some other people coming down and speaking on at the event. So it's a lot of fun. Yep, $40. Or guests, yeah, guests and member, or non-guests or non-members, excuse me, non-members and guests are $60. So if you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce, it's $40. Mayor Brand does the State of the City in person, either on Facebook or in person at the Performing Arts Center sometime thereafter. Let's see here. Other than that, we have Avenue A ramp and walk path. There's an update to that. That's going to be on Tuesday night. A lot of work going on there. The walk path above Nob Hill there is done. You can see that in its full glory. Anyone else have anything else to add to the community meeting? Any events that I forgot other than 4th of July, which we talked about? Go ahead and unmute yourself, put it in the comments. If you don't have anything, thank you guys. Status on Legato. Height is very high. Yes. So Legato is essentially on track right now. They started construction with their hotel. They're deep in the hotel construction. They just asked for a waiver on their parking for the hotel, and basically after talking to staff and myself, they kind of realized that that's not going to happen. But other than that, the project's moving along. Home Key project, yes, Home Key project is delayed once again. They do not have their permits. They thought they were going to be open in August. They got their final extension to August. They'll probably have to get a final extension because they still haven't gotten their construction permits to do the construction work from the city. They're still waiting. The city is waiting for comments, sent comments to them, and they're going to be submitting that back to the city for their updates. So Home Key is delayed probably until easily fall, I'd say October easily. So that's the update for Project Home Key. Height. That's the height for the Legato project. That's what was approved. So, David, that's what was approved. That's what they got. It could have been higher if they asked for affordable housing component to that project, but they didn't. Let's see. So that's it. If anyone has anything else, throw it in the chat box. Put your hand up. If there's not, I probably will not be having my in-person community meeting in July. July is a pretty busy month for me, and I'm not sure if I'll have it in person. We will see. So if I don't see you for the in-person, I will see you guys in August. And I really want to appreciate everyone. Thank you guys for showing up, taking interest in your local community happenings. It's a lot of good information, a lot of good questions, a lot of good input for tomorrow night. If you have any questions or comments about the budget or any other items, you want to send them to City Council, cityclerk@redondo.org. Email your comments to cityclerk@redondo.org. So you will get that into the record so the whole council can see your comments. So with that said, I bid everyone a farewell. Have a great evening, and I will see you in the next few weeks. Goodbye.